Hey guys, this is Lachette from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I am back with my last video for the 2020 reading wrap up. I almost forgot to do this, and yes, I am in my comfortable pajamas. These are my 2020 book awards. Okay, so I've got a ring light. I attempted to use it at night the other day for my reading stats video. That didn't work out very well. I was so tired. But it's okay. It's okay. So I got my paper here. These were very hard to come up with, and I realized while doing this, I may have forgotten one of my favorite books of the year, because I don't know, I just overlooked it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that in now. I already uploaded the other video, so too late. But 2020 favorite was The Lies of Locke Lamora, book 1 in the Gentleman Bastard series. It is the high fantasy series by Scott Lynch, not the romance series, which is a whole other thing, but I do want to read that too because I'm a sucker for that title. Alright, so let's start. This first category was really difficult. I'm unable to narrow it down to one of each, but fave male and female protagonist is the category. Oh, this was hard. This was hard, even to narrow it down to two each, which I have. But, because I think this year, characters were the best parts of everything I read. Protagonists, antagonists, well, most antagonists, and side characters, sidekicks, ensemble casts. I'll get to those in a second. I'm glad I have that, but let me tell you, I read some great protagonists this year, and it was really difficult. So I have two male and two female. First male would have to be Locke Lamora from the aforementioned The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I read this early in the year. I listened to the audiobook. I am so glad. I plan to continue this series in 2021 because I love the thief aspect, and Locke was a surprise. There's a lot of boasting and a lot of talk about how good he is, but as you get deeper and deeper into the story, you realize, like, damn, he's good. He is really good. This is not your average little cut purse on the street. And the other gentleman bastards are no slouches either, but he's a good leader. He's also entertaining as hell, to be perfectly honest, and very creative. So, Locke, can't wait to find out more. The other male on my list is Fitz, aka, I hate saying his full name, Fitz Chivalry Farseer, the main character in the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. And I had 3 books with Fitz this year, and I enjoyed being in his head for all of them. Please excuse the slight noise of my radio in the background. But we watched Fitz grow from, I think, 6 years old it was, to maybe 30 or yeah. Fitz goes through a lot. We see a lot of things happen through his eyes, and his emotional lens. He makes a lot of stupid decisions once he hits his teenage years, and he's relatable in those situations, but not. And you feel for him. He's a good kid, a good guy, just trying to do the best with the shitty hand he's been dealt in life. So, favorite female protagonist. This is a surprise, but this is the first one that came to mind. Kitty from the Kitty Norville series by Carrie Vaughn. I was rereading this series. I only got to read like 3 books this year, but it's been so long. I only remember the events of the first book, to be perfectly honest. And this is an urban fantasy series. And Kitty is a werewolf by force, and she goes through a lot. Another relatable character, not the most relatable character, but a relatable character. And she's just dealing with a lot of the issues of being paranormal, not just being made into a werewolf, but werewolf politics, vampire politics, and other things as well. Handling relationships, dealing with the violence and death that comes with being a paranormal creature of myth, basically, or supposed myth. So I just like that Kitty keeps trying and keeps going, and yeah. The second female protagonist is a trans female character by the name of Jam. Jam is the protagonist, or I think she's the protagonist. Let's go protagonist. Jam is the protagonist of Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. Akwaeke Emezi. Excuse me. I don't know if I pronounced that better the second time, but I hope I did. And this is an interesting character. A young girl who lives in kind of this alternate world, alternate futuristic world where everything bad has been removed, the people have risen up, and all of the negative things of society, of human beings, have been removed, so it's like a utopia, except Jam comes to find out that it's not. And it's a heartbreaking story. Jam is young, and she was born into this utopia, so it's hard for her to adjust to the idea that something bad has come back into her world and who it's affecting. But I think she did a great job, and I just, liked watching the whole thing through her eyes. So, that was the first award. The next award is favorite male side character. And I have to give that to Wayne from the Mistborn Era 2 trilogy. Wayne is Waxillium's sidekick and the most hilarious man. I talked about him as my new book crush in my mid-year freakout video, and that remains the same. I am a sucker for a funny guy, so there is that. My favorite female side character is Luna from Frostheart by Jamie Littler. This is I guess middle grade. I think I remember it's middle grade, not necessarily children's book 1 in the series. I think the series is called Frostheart. And Luna's just fun, and also kind of practical for her age. I guess she's just been out adventuring for a while, and I just greatly enjoyed her character. Ash, the main character protagonist, he needed a Luna in his life, a friend who will have his back and will be honest with him, and also who will get him to have fun and trust himself. And Tobu, to an extent. Just having a friend, a true friend his own age, was good, I think. And Luna is somehow badass as young as she is. So, my favorite ensemble cast: The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch, The Gentleman Bastards. Like, this was hard, but it has to go to The Gentleman Bastards. It has to. They are like this. I am a sucker for found family. A lot of the books that I read this year have that. If I were to pick a second group, it would have to be like that inner circle from Court of Mist and Fury. And there's a similar thing. These are not nice people. They are not, what's the word, civilized necessarily. They don't always follow the rules of society, but they're there for one another, for each other. And I think that the Lives of Lockmore covered more time with the Gentleman Bastards. We see them from when they meet each other to growing up, and even though there's a lot of sad moments, I am here for them. Like, life on the line, trust without question. Plus, they're hilarious. The conversations, the wit, the back and forth. Love it. Favorite book cover has to go to Monstrous. Like, nothing else was touching this year. I wanted to read this because of this cover. It's absolutely gorgeous, and this being a graphic novel means that the inside is even more gorgeousness. But this is a cover I like, love. Great. Favorite narrator. I added this for the first time this year because I read more audiobooks, and I think for next year, for next year I plan to keep track of the narrators to see if I have any repeats outside of one series, and if I catch anything about them that really does it for me. Now, the one who won the award this year is Michael Page, the narrator for The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I swear. Like, he brought that to life. That was the first really long book that I listened to on audiobook, and I was taking a chance, but I heard that the audiobook was very good, and Michael Page hit it out of the ballpark. All the emotions, all of the dialogue, all of the intrigue, all of the action, he brought the right amount of tension at all times, and I was into it from beginning to end, and think that was like a 50-hour audiobook, so I might be exaggerating. I'll put the number on the screen here. Next, new to me, my fave new to me author was Ekweke Emezi, the author of Pet, and another book that I read last year. I like their writing style. I like their point of view focus and how they voice their characters. The two books that I read were different. One being child middle grade kind of fantastical thing, even though it dealt with what we would like to say is adult themes, even though these things happen to children and did happen to children in Pet. And then we had something darker, something more close to being autobiographical. So I've read, and something set in, you know, contemporary times in Nigeria and the United States. Very realistic adult themes, and there were crossovers, but the tones were completely different. And if you could see the similarities in the writing style, but feel the difference in the focus of each book. So, Kweke Emezi, y'all. All right, plot. Another really difficult one for me. So I'm struggling still because I have them both written here. But as I sit here, I'm going to go with Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 2 in the Stormlight Archive series. It's hard because this plot was a continuation, obviously, of the plot from the first book, like literally, but we find out actually where the hell this is going. And I appreciate that a lot of threads start to make sense. You can see a direction for the plot now, and I appreciated that a lot. Favorite plot twist has to go to Mistborn Secret History by Brandon Sanderson. I read this out of the bind-up of short stories in the Cosmere called Arcanum Unbounded. This was a novella, I guess, and the whole thing was a plot twist. Like, from beginning to end, from the beginning, you realize that, hey, someone is still in existence. Not alive, but still in existence of some kind. And things are happening with them in the background, and then other stuff from the Cosmere starts being dropped in more obviously, and it's like, what? So Mistborn Secret History, yeah, plot twist from beginning to end. I could not give it to this. My favorite world building has to go to, and this was difficult as well, but really thinking about it, the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. This was completely different from anything I had ever come across before. I appreciate this world. It's very subtly done. It's not, in my opinion, thrown in your face, but this is a very earth-based world. Their language, their slang is filled with all kinds of geological, I don't know, all kinds of geo languages. Different words for rocks and layers of the Earth's crust are used in regular language for other meanings. The magic system is very Earth-based. And just, wow. Like, knowing stuff about the Earth, I'm forgetting what that term is, for people who study the Earth, like not just the planet Earth, but like dirt and rocks and things. I forget what that's called. Geology? Is it geology? That's probably what I mean. Like all kinds of geological terms and things. But also like geomancy, which is the divination using rocks and stones and crystals. People's names. It's, again, you don't necessarily realize all of this unless you know a little bit about these things. Come across some of the terms, and then it's like, oh, and then once I was like, that sounds familiar, that sounds familiar, that sounds familiar. Then when it hit me, I was like, and then certain things start to make more sense. So best world building goes to the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. Next, most relatable character. For me, Eliza from Eliza and her monsters. I This was probably the most contemporary book I read this year, meaning it was for now. We're following Eliza, who is a teenager, but she has a secret life. She writes a web comic under a pseudonym that is very popular. Then her real identity and location even gets revealed on the internet, and her whole life changes. And that is something so today it was like, wow. She basically gets doxxed out of nowhere, and now people she knew online are surprised, and people she knew in real life who are fans of her work are also surprised because they didn't know about the other identity. She also deals with her parents, her siblings, and it was just really relatable and understandable, even though I'm not a teenager. It's just today's things. So yeah, my favorite book to movie or TV show adaptation, Emma and Clueless. So I've seen Clueless countless times before. I watched it again this year and read Emma, the book, afterwards for the first time. And I think this is a Jane Austen. If it's not a real author on the screen, sorry. But I've never read Emma before, and I've never watched a more classical movie adaptation. I've only seen Clueless, and I watched and read this for a readathon, and that was the prompt: read a book that you watched the movie or TV show of, and it definitely helped. I didn't realize that Clueless was an adaptation, so the movie takes out a lot of things that were not necessarily really necessary. It really gets to the point, and it shows that Emma is the type of character that exists today, too, even though Clueless came out in the 90s. Next, favorite graphic novel. This was hard, but graphic novel or manga. And this was hard, and I had to give this to Attack on Titan Volume 26. I had read 25 sometime last year, and because there were no e-versions that I could get from my library, I had to wait until they were physically open again. And, ooh, let me tell you, 26 was a knock on the ass. There's were other volumes that I read, and obviously some other graphic novels that I read this year, but this one really was just like, wow. We culminate in some action. Some things happen with characters we've been with for a long time. Some people are not acting the way you think they are, and there was a surprise death. So, emotions everywhere, up, down, left, right. That's why it's my favorite manga of 2020. Favorite mystery. Now, I didn't read many. I read the short stories in the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, part of my complete collection of Sherlock Holmes. These were really short, and so did not, for the most part, go into too much detail about the cases and how Sherlock solved them, but the naval treaty did, and I thought it was really interesting. So that was my favorite mystery. Again, really short. My favorite fantasy was Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, Book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. Basically, I liked how everything came together and all the characters came together, and we started getting so many reveals about what is this series about, because I felt like the Way of Kings, the first book, was on my most disappointing books of 2020 list. I didn't know where the hell it was going. Like, what is this? And finally, I think Words of Radiance like gave that to us. So thank you, Words of Radiance. And it was very, very fantastical. I like the magic system that we've learned so far. And the world is very interesting with the storms. My favorite contemporary book goes to Eliza and Her Monsters, like I mentioned earlier when saying Eliza was most relatable character. That was my favorite contemporary because of all of that. And I like the friends that she made online and in person. I loved her brothers. That was super relatable. Actually, I should have mentioned that earlier. The relationship with her younger brothers was relatable. I have two younger brothers. They're not as sporty, but they're a little bit more outgoing than I am, and they're now twins. But you know, being the oldest and a girl has these pressures that even when your parents really love you and they try their best, they still exist even without trying. So I love that. I liked her parents. I didn't feel like the book was really bad parents. You're bad. They were ignorant, and everyone is in some way, shape, or form. So I liked that Eliza had a business of her own with her own bank account where she was making money. Like, this wasn't a little bit of a thing. She was popular and making bank. So go girl. Favorite nonfiction has to go to American Like Me by America Ferrera and all of the people who participated in that. This was a kind of anthology of short memoirs for people who were immigrants to the United States, or their parents or grandparents were immigrants to the United States. So they each have different stories to tell from different perspectives, and it was just interesting and informative and entertaining. Favorite paganism / divination, I gotta really change this to probably New Age or spiritual book, maybe. What do you guys think? But that goes to Crystals for Emotional Healing, which is authored by Stacey Harrell. Sorry, Stacey. I just like the way it is categorized and very simple to find what you need. This is kind of reference, but kind of not. I did read it from cover to cover, which most people probably won't, but it was helpful, and I like the notes section in the back because I definitely made some lists of crystals I want to work with more and crystals that I want to buy that I don't have already. Next up, my favorite romance is Rafe by Rebecca Weatherspoon. I'm really upset that my library only has 2 books from this author because I want more. I love this. I do like children in romance, even though they don't pop up often. It's, I guess, a thing more with contemporary romance. And we follow kind of black woman prodigy who is a surgeon, and she's got 2 daughters, and she needs a new nanny because her first nanny just up and left one day while leaving the 2 girls at home for no real good reason, in my opinion. Uh, and so she's looking for a nanny, and somebody at the girls' school recommends Rafe, a buff male nanny. He's redheaded, he's got tattoos, he rides a motorcycle, and he's been a nanny for like at least a decade or and plus. And he's great with the kids. The relationship is fire. The chemistry is there. I just wish it was longer so I could enjoy it more. Um, my favorite angst. I might change this to the one that hurt me the most, but Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. This is different from Pet. Like I said, this is an adult, almost autobiographical novel where we follow a Nigerian-born girl who is born with spirits in her head, though her family doesn't realize it, and they are not supposed to be there. And this kind of means she has like multiple what people might see as multiple personality disorder, or I think we're calling it DID now, dissociative identity disorder, I think is what it's called now. And whether that's true or not, whether you believe it's DID or you believe in the spirits, it doesn't matter. How this affects her life is very wild. There are trigger warnings in this for rape and, the character getting raped and raping someone else, FYI. There's drug abuse, there's alcohol abuse, and all kinds of drama. It hurt really at the end. There's trigger warnings for suicidal ideation and attempted suicide. And there's LGBTQIA plus rep in this. And I didn't love this, but I appreciated it for what it was. If that makes sense. So yeah. Angst makes it seem so trivial, to be perfectly honest. But next up, my favorite standalone book. Really hard. Pet by Akwaeke Emezi, and Eliza and Her Monsters. My favorite series is Binti. Now, the parameters for a series is I had to read the entire series in this 1 year. I did that because otherwise I would have been going crazy trying to figure it out. And one of the few that I did was the Binti trilogy. And yes, I read these as separate entities. There is a bind-up of all three together. But, yes, this is a sci-fi series. We're following Binti, who is, and I'm sorry, this is by Nnedi Okorafor. We're following Binti, who has been accepted to Umfa University on another planet, and she is the first of her people to be accepted to that. Binti sneaks out to meet the ship that will take her and the other students of other peoples on her planet to the university, and things go crazy from there. Binti's whole life changes, and this was so outside of anything I've read. I can honestly say I don't think I've read sci-fi before this year, and I had heard about different ones thanks to BookTube and Book Twitter that I wanted to try because I watch a lot of sci-fi. So, and Binti was a good start and a good finish. And I liked all the side characters. I liked the world building, the world's building. I think this is African futurism, and I enjoy it. It sparked my imagination in ways that it hasn't been, just because this is coming from some a non-American standpoint, I guess, to be perfectly honest. And I definitely want to read more by this author. Favorite series finale, I had to add this in here because I think, yeah. So, favorite series finale is Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. Y'all know this book hurt me in a good way, and I don't regret any of it. I want to read this trilogy over again. This is the third book in the Mistborn Era 1 trilogy, and I wasn't expecting how it went, and I appreciate it. And I think that this, I don't even know what other series finale can ever live up to this, because it was done so well. Things were wrapped up, but it didn't feel like, oh, he was trying to scurry to make sure there were no loose ends. There were loose ends, but this was a satisfying ending. And on that note, my favorite sequel was Words of Radiance, book 2 in the Stormlight Archive series. It was a good sequel, because this was what told me I'm going to continue reading the Stormlight Archive. Because book 1, I was like, I don't know if I could do this. I really don't know if I could do this. Okay, going back to the genre category. Favorite sci-fi book was Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Again, sci-fi was new to me this year, basically. And this was on one of the most surprising books list this year, because I wasn't expecting to enjoy it quite that much. I didn't know how much I would like a YA fantasy, and then this was really hyped, and when stuff is overhyped, your expectations are here, but I don't think my expectations were that high, because I really didn't know what I would feel. But at the start of this book, it was okay, and then it just kept getting better, and I loved it. So there was that. My favorite translated work was Attack on Titan by Hajime Isayama, and just all of them. Like, I didn't read as many translated works this year as I did last year, but and the majority of them were the Attack on Titan volumes. I'm just blessed to be able to experience this series. I cannot wait to watch season 4 and to read at least the next 2 volumes once they are translated. Attack on Titan, y'all know what that is. And let me see. Oh yes, favorite classic had to go to Emma. Again, I didn't read that many classics, but enough. And Emma is about a girl of the nobility named Emma, who is not that far up the totem pole, but she's a busybody. She wants to be in everybody's business, and she wants to play matchmaker. She likes to pretend like she knows what's best for everyone, and that is most often not the case, as we find out through the course of the story. And then there are various love interests. There's one bad guy, and I hope he has a bad end, but that's not in the story. The end love interest is a family friend who has always liked Emma, but he's a significant amount of years older than her and more experienced with life. So he kind of humors her, but also cautions her to like let people make their own choices, and then lets her cry on his shoulder when things fall apart and implode. Um, but they do eventually get together, and I liked it. I was amused by the cast of characters. Her father is hilarious. He's cantankerous hypochondriac, which was amusing to me. I was like, wait, is this happening? But yes, he backed it up. So I enjoyed Emma. Um, my favorite comedy slash amusing book was The Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl. And this is by Issa Rae. I've been wanting to read this for a while. I listened to the audiobook and it was entertaining. This was exactly what I kind of hoped for. I didn't agree with everything. I don't relate to everything she was talking about because her family is from a different place than me. It was interesting because we're roughly the same age, so like seeing certain things that were cultural things in the U.S. happening from her point of view growing up and versus mine is was very entertaining and interesting as well. Uh, Favorite book from a non-American author was, oh no, sorry, favorite non-American author in general uh, is Neon Yang, or I guess formerly known as G Yang. I saw when double checking for my most surprising books video that they're changing their name, and that's fine. This is a Singaporean author of The Black Tides of Heaven in the Ten Sword series. That's book one that I read of the Ten Sword series, and I want more. I want more. Next, let's see. Let's talk about favorite new release. This I added this year as well, and that was The Queen's Bargain by uh, Anne Bishop. I was like, I already said this is in the Black Jewels series. I love the Black Jewels series. Um, this was one of my favorite books of 2020 and my favorite new release because it came out in 2020. Like, I don't read very many new releases when they come out, so except for my favorite authors, and Anne Bishop is one of them. So check it out. It's a long series. I think this was book 10 or 11. So, but beloved characters, a beloved world. I was grateful to get back to it. Now we're talking about audience. My favorite young adult book was Blanca y Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. And, oh, oops, sorry guys. I loved the four characters. Blanca, Roja, the two boys. Sorry guys, it's been a while. I don't remember the guys' names. Maybe I'll put it on the screen here. But, it was just so atmospheric. The other YA books I read that were not rereads, that's the other thing. I'm not including rereads in any of this list, as long as it is. The other YA books in this were great. But other than Eliza and Her Monsters, I didn't really enjoy their young adultness as much as the other parts of the book, if that makes any sense. Like, them being young adult didn't matter as much, and this is not like a pity prize, oh well, you're it. The atmosphere of this was amazing. The tension, the magical realism, which is a genre that I'm slowly dipping my toe into, mostly with Anna Marie Michaelmore. So can't wait to read more. Favorite adult book was Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. Like, come on, guys. I think that's probably my favorite book of the year because nothing made me feel as good as that. Nothing, not even The Queen's Bargain. And I just feel as strongly. My favorite middle grade / children's book. I read a lot this year, mostly classics. But I have to give it to Frostheart by Jamie Littler. I really enjoyed that. And it was enough for me to be like, I love this and I definitely want to continue the series. There is the second book is out and the third is coming out in 2021. So I want to read those because I want to know what happens to Ash. I want him to find his parents. I want to see more of this winter wonderland that they're in. I definitely want more of Luna and Tobu, two of my favorite characters. The world building is great. The characters, the found family is great. The adventure is great. And like, I'm not good at reviewing middle grade and children's books, but I feel like maybe you expect them to be less than because it's for children, but this is not. I don't know how to explain what I expected versus what I got. Also, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. A perfect winter read. I should pick that up this month too. Maybe next month. Aurora. Lastly, my favorite novella is Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. And in this case, I mean the first book in the trilogy, not all three, not the bind up. Binti is the title of the first book, and that's definitely my favorite. The second and third kind of feel like a little bit separate from it. Like there's ties to it, but there's a slight disconnect. Maybe it's just there's a time jump between the first and the second that's not there between the second and the third. So yeah, but it was the first one. My eyes were open to this whole new genre and new subgenre and new world and new characters, and like I knew about them in the second and the third. I think that's what pushed it up there for me. So those are the book awards, my book awards for 2020. Let me know if you've read any of these. I'm sorry this is super long. I will try to edit this down to a more manageable length because this is ridiculous. But applause to all of the winners. And I cannot wait to do this in 2021. I'm very happy that I got to talk about more books than just the few in my favorites video, because there's obviously more I want to say about each one. So, with that in mind, let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these. If you've gotten this far, I think there's like a trophy emoji, so put that in the comments down below. And guys, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you are new, hit the notification bell so you know when my next videos are coming out. This was the last in my 2020 wrap up, thank goodness. We'll go back to my regularly scheduled things. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.